just had a. I have no artistic ability whatsoever. By the way.
I have to like sit down and think about it in order to have any.
Yeah, if you say hello, it's like just like I can hear you.
Hello. You're talking about which one?
5 ways to be in a or help get you in a calorie deficit without like counting calories.
No.
You would know what's called Albert Plot and Burpees?
Igual the Susie worker.
Oh,
This last one.
The Susie worker for a lunch.
oh, right. It was that
Understand.
Everybody, how can you everybody?
Look at him. He's just hanging out there. It's so cute.
Now I need to reorganize my pages.
Do you want, is this going to stay here?
Yeah.
Where the camera was.
See, there's, I think, 5 or 6 people on Miss Julia, Miss Claudia, Mr. Rick, Mr. Butler, Neil, and Miss Raven.
Feel like I'm doing well.
Understanding.
What are your cravings?
Sugar.
What kind of sugar?
Cake, cookies, candy.
Do you allow yourself to have any of it? So that might be the problem.
Well, yeah, very, very little.
Because if you allow yourself to like say that it's not a negative, it's like changing your mindset about it. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
You gotta, there's a lot of other things too, but like a lot of times when people just allow themselves to have something, it's not as enjoyable as you think it is.
The concern I have is once I start, it's difficult to stop.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing that we have to,
If it's a bag of
conquer.
candy,
yeah.
if I open the bag of candy, I will empty the bag of candy.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing. So that's really been the demon for me. So I just, the easy way for me to stay away from it is stay away from it.
Yeah.
Just don't even bring it in the
Yeah.
house. If I don't have it at home, I won't eat it.
With my boys, we do every now and then we'll throw something in with their dinner meal because then it takes the emphasis off of a treat and just makes it part of the meal so that they're not even thinking of it as like this special thing that they get. It's just a random cookie every now and then, or
I think cravings are just right.
We have several people. We could start with just some intros, and then you guys could each sort of summarize your tips, and then
Okay.
people could ask questions.
yeah.
Sounds good. I'll go first. I'm Kim Hockman. I'm one of the nutrition and fitness coaches here at Gwinnett Clinic, Healthy Living. I've been a trainer for 12, 13 years, and I've been in the nutrition business for 7, 8 years. So I've been doing this a long time. I've come from a functional medicine background, but I've been friends with Dr. Raju for a long time. So I jumped on board to help out a little bit here where I can.
And I'm Nicole. I'm the dietitian here. This is Cade. He's the newest member of the team. But I've been doing nutrition with sports nutrition, clinical nutrition, kind of everything for, gosh, almost 10 years now, it feels like. I think that's about right.
Lose track of the years. They go fast.
If you want to start.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about why it's important to shop the perimeter of a store. So I thought we'd start off by first everybody kind of pitching in and telling me what's in the perimeter of a store. So when you think of, I want everybody to think about the grocery store that you currently shop in. And when you walk in, you either go right or left. And what are the things that would be on the outside of the grocery store?
Dairy and meat.
Good.
Mhm.
Produce. Yep. Dairy, usually in the back,
Yep.
right? And meats here. What else? Bakery. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Anything else? This is your fruits and vegetables, right? Our produce is our fruits and veggies. Okay, so why do we think that it's important to eat these foods? Just throw some things out there.
Well, meat, high protein.
Yep.
Dairy, calciums.
Yep.
Intake.
Good.
Produce is, I look at those as healthy sugars.
Yes. What else would they be? Yes, sir. Vitamins, minerals, fiber. Yes. Good. And why are those important? Why do we want vitamins, minerals, fiber, protein?
Healthy blood.
Yeah, right. We want a balanced diet. We want to get good nutrients in. We want to work on prevention of chronic disease, helps us balance our weight, all those good things, right? So basically, the way that the supermarket is set up, produce, we want to have the produce. We want to start with the produce. We want to fill up on that good fiber because it keeps us fuller longer. And it gives us those vitamins, minerals, and all those good things. So variety of fruits and vegetables, that's a great place to start. Should be half of our plate, right? Then we're going to make our way to our meat, fish, chicken, beef, pork, all that kind of stuff. That's your protein. That's also going to force your metabolism to work harder. It is also going to keep you fuller longer. It's going to help you build muscle. Those are all your amino acids in there, super important. Then you can move to the dairy, right? Some protein there. Yogurt, cottage cheese. What about eggs? Eggs, we forgot about eggs. So eggs are super important on the outside. And then the bakery, although it's important, we've got to be picky and choosy there. So when anyone asks me about bread, I'm always like, if you can understand the ingredients on it and it goes bad in a few days, then it's probably okay in moderation. But in the aisles, those are the breads that we want to stay away from. The ones in the bakery have less preservatives and less ingredients. So where do we get caught up? Is here, right? Those are where most of the processed foods are. So that's the reason why we want to stay on the perimeters, because everything in here is a little bit of a trap, almost everything. What are some things, what are other things in here that we would consider health foods? Think of your aisles in your grocery store.
Not as good as fresh vegetables, but canned vegetables.
Right, canned. What about the frozen section? Right, fruits and vegetables. What about things you drink?
For me, water.
Water, yeah, water. We got tea. You got coffee, depending on what you put in it, right? What about other sources of protein in the aisles?
Oh, yeah. I think there is.
Lentils,
Lentils, yeah, that's true.
right? Beans.
Oh yeah, I was putting that in the can category.
Yeah, and some vegetables. Yeah, absolutely. What about one thing I think we always forget when we think of the grocery store is that's where your herbs and spices would be too, right? So you got spices, you got herbs, all those things. So there are good things. How about oats, right? Always we forget oats. So there are some good things within those aisles. We just have to be picky and choosy. And some of the tips and tricks that I wanted to bring up was the first one is never go to the grocery store hungry, because then we fall into traps and we want things that aren't so great for us. So the number one thing is don't go hungry. The second thing would be to make a list, right? Try to follow that list. If you have a plan and you know what you're going to make, you're more likely to stick to that plan. If we're kind of all over the place, we're grabbing and going, and we end up spending too much money and probably buying things that won't serve us well. The other thing is reading labels. We want to make sure that when we're looking at some of the labels, here's the thing I'm going to tell you about the perimeter of the store. What do most of these things have in common? Can anybody guess when it comes to?
Most of them are whole foods.
Right. We want to get whole foods that are as close to nature as possible. They're less processed, things that your grandmother would recognize, things that don't have boxes, bags, or barcodes. That's in general. Now, is that going to be the rule of thumb all the time? No, because we get into the cans and the frozen. But think about it. No boxes, no bags, no barcodes. It's kind of a general.
Lifespan.
Yes.
That's the other thing. I find myself shopping more often than I used to because the things that I'm bringing home
Go
don't
bad.
last long.
Right, absolutely. So things that are going to go bad longer. Now, when it comes to the produce, though, even though it's in the produce section, think about the frozen section because it is picked and then it's frozen. So either or is totally fine. I mean, obviously we want fresh, then frozen, and then with last resort would be the cans, but it's all good. They're all vegetables. The thing about the vegetables and fruits in the cans is you've got to read the label because they're hiding things in there like corn syrup and sodium, correct. So we got to read those labels. That's super important. So I think the tips here when you're staying on the outside is don't go hungry, plan ahead, and focus on whole foods that kind of grow on the ground, on bushes and our trees, because those are the things that keep us full and prevent disease and help us to live longer and healthier. Any questions? Okay.
I will give you a comment that the idea of the shopping list,
Yes.
that's something that I do.
Okay.
And I find that I spend more time looking at the shopping list rather than looking at the shelves for things that I know I don't need.
Yeah.
If I don't have the list, I'm just scanning all the shelves. And I
Absolutely.
see something and it's just an impulse buy.
Yeah, it is.
The
And it
impulse
saves money.
go away with the list.
Yeah, like think of when you check out all those things that are in that aisle on your way out, or you're standing in line at a Michael's and there's candy and cookies and chips and all that. They're trapping you. So the goal is don't go hungry and just stick to the perimeter and get things that are going to serve you well and not roadblock you from good things.
Can you name some specific things with the bakery that?
Yeah, so like,
Because I tend to just try
Yeah.
to stay away from it.
So I mean, like seeded grain bread, a whole wheat if you don't have a gluten sensitivity, some sourdough breads, but again, you got to look at like if people are going to buy bread and eat those kind of things, I always say go to the bakery first rather than those aisle breads, because that's where they're adding the high fructose corn syrup and they last, a week or 2 weeks versus the bread you buy in the bakery might last 2 or 3 days. So it's just less preservatives and less additives to those types of foods. Yeah, good question. Anything else? Is anybody asking questions online?
Don't see any so far.
Okay. I do have a handout and I'll have Kristen send this, but this is a phytonutrient. It's called phytonutrient spectrum foods. So these are all fruits and vegetables that the reason why we want color and variety is to keep our gut healthy, right? And each of them have a color to them. That's kind of like the immune system of the plants. And they each have benefits. So when you're shopping, this is a great handy dandy list to say, okay, where's my red stuff and what is that going to do for me? And where's the purple stuff and what is that going to do for me? And why it's important. So we'll put that in the chat or we'll send in an email to whoever is online and you can use that next time you grocery shop.
And that's a really fun thing to use with kids too, because you can talk about them as their like superpowers. That's what we used to do to educate kids is like, here's red superhero. What does it do?
That's
and
so cool.
make it more interactive with them. So they're learning and they're more interested in eating these foods as well.
Yeah, I think I have one for kids that they can actually check off.
Yeah.
This one's more for adults, just for information, but it's a good resource. So feel free to use that next time you're making your list or going to the grocery store. So that's all I have.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Let's get
Okay.
into your right and then Nikki.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep it kind of simple, but I really wanted to talk about 5 ways to kind of cut calories without thinking too much about them. Because we know in order to lose weight, we need to eat in a calorie deficit. But a lot of us are like, oh, how do we do that? Or we're counting our calories, tracking them, and we're overwhelmed by everything. So if we can break it down into some simplicity, that can really help. One thing that's not on the list, that is if you just stay around these items, you most likely will eat in a calorie deficit. And here is where, not these items, but in here is where you get those high calorie, low filling foods that don't do a whole lot for you. So if we stay around here, it's a lot harder to go over your calories than eating in some of the aisles. But the first step is prioritize protein and fiber. So Kim talked a little bit about it with why we want to focus on our produce and our meat. But protein and fiber, they help preserve our lean body mass. They help with appetite control. They keep you full for way longer than a lot of other foods. And both protein and fiber help actually regulate our blood sugar. kind of because they help slow digestion. They're harder to break down. They make our body work a little bit harder, so they slow that blood sugar spike. And then I did see this one study showed that a consumption of at least 30% of calories from protein actually helped reduce the daily calorie intake by about 441 calories per day, which is a lot, because in order to lose 1 pound per week, we need to eat less in about a 500 calorie deficit per day. So just by doing this step, we're getting towards that goal. Some protein options, if you aren't a meat eater, you can do lentils, chickpeas, black beans. And again, these are going to be likely found in here. Some of them will be out here, but you're going to find them over there. Edamame or soybeans, quinoa. And then with the animal protein options, you can find like grilled chicken. You can do Greek yogurt, tuna, eggs. And then some good snacks that are high protein, high fiber are chickpeas, cottage cheese with raspberries and flax seeds, and then homemade protein bars. If you're gonna eat a protein bar, be mindful of the ingredients on those, because some are just glorified candy bars. The second one is something that a lot of people tend to leave out when they're tracking, is what they're drinking. So we kind of mindlessly drink throughout the day, and this is where we can get a lot of extra calories. So liquid calories can hinder weight loss for a ton of reasons, but really it's just because they're not going to satisfy us. So that's kind of the main thing, is we're not getting satisfied by these beverages. We drink them fast too. A lot of the times we're at a restaurant, we're slurping down a soda and it's gone, and they refill it. And we're drinking more, and those calories just add up. They're high calorie without nutrients likely. They can spike your insulin and your blood sugar. And then just those hidden calories, that's really what's going to get you, is as we're drinking these, we're just building those calories up. So what can we do? So if we like soda, there's really good soda options out there now that are like the carbonated beverages. So switching to that, or switching to sparkling water with lemon. If you like sweetened iced tea, try unsweetened tea with stevia or lemon. If you like juice, just eat a fruit. You're going to get so much more out of that fruit. You're going to get so much fuller out of that fruit than drinking the juice. Fancy coffee drinks. So this is where a lot of people don't think about how much they're actually consuming. If you're adding in sugar or creamers or anything at home, measure it out, because a lot of us just kind of blind pour and we're unaware of how much we're actually consuming. And then if you go out to a coffee bar, check the menu. A lot of the times you can ask for the 0-calorie version or half sweet. You'll be shocked kind of by how many calories are hidden in some of those drinks. And then if you're drinking like alcoholic cocktails, a lot of people think about, we drink them only so often, but they tend to have a lot of sugar, a lot of things. So just be mindful, look for like the clears or like vodka sodas. Be mindful of what we're adding to those to make sure. And then smoothies. Smoothies is something that a lot of us do. We think that they're super healthy, and they can be, but we also can go the opposite direction where we're getting so much sugar, we're not getting in the fiber or the protein. So make sure to add some vegetables in there. Make sure to add some protein, some fiber into those, and be mindful of how much fruit you're actually adding into those. You can swap that out with a lot of other options. Third is daily movement. So daily movement, even without being in an intense exercise program, can help us stay in a calorie deficit. It helps us increase our calorie expenditure. It helps improve our appetite regulation. A lot of my clients, I'll say, go for a walk after you eat a meal. That'll actually help. So when we feel like our stomach hasn't caught up with us, we need that kind of slow down movement, go for a walk. Or if we are craving something in the middle of the day, going for a walk sometimes helps, because maybe it's a stress response that we're seeing and we need to just kind of move. And it reduces stress and emotional eating. It helps boost mood and energy. So some really good things with just adding in some regular movement, and that could be walking, rucking, adding in an exercise program. Again, it doesn't have to be intense, and we can build 2 different intensities along with that. Portion control and volume eating. Something I really like is the volume eating, is because a lot of us think that low calorie, we have to eat less, but a lot of times you can actually eat more, which is something really fun. So portion control with some of our higher calorie foods is really important. So like our starches, sometimes we need to be mindful of how much we're using. The plate method is really good for visualizing this, as using a quarter of your plate as a starch, a quarter of your plate as your protein, and then half your plate as your non-starchy vegetables. And then volume eating. This is where you can really, really support your fullness factor. I printed out a picture. So the top one, or one has 355 calories and the other has 348. And the one with more food on it has less calories. So looking at this, and you're not taking away anything necessarily. So we still have the 2 eggs, we still have the 2 pieces of toast, we're just taking away the jam, which if you just smash some strawberries on it's jam. So you can make your own without all that added sugar, you're losing that fiber, so now you're making that, and then adding in those vegetables. And now we have a whole lot more food for less. And then finally, understanding your cravings. So this is something that a lot of people struggle with, is what are our cravings? How do we manage them? Where are they coming from? So first thing that I always like to say is start by eating balanced meals. That can actually help reduce your cravings. A lot of us try to limit our calories, we try to eat less, and then we're hungry an hour later. If we eat these protein and fiber-rich meals every 3 to 4 hours, we're probably going to be satisfied and you're going to not be thinking about these foods as often. Staying hydrated. That's another thing, is a lot of the times we're craving something and we might be dehydrated instead. Increase your protein intake. So same thing, is just really focusing on the foods that are going to fill you up. Getting enough sleep. So that's a big thing. If we're not getting enough sleep, we tend to crave a lot of things. Manage our stress. So stress can cause us to overeat or undereat too, but a lot of times we're craving these simple foods that aren't nutrient dense. So figuring out, am I eating because I'm stressed? And what can I do to kind of combat that stress in a different way? And then you can always practice mindful eating. This is something I really like. We're slowing down, we're stopping. If we're having a craving, just slow down and try to figure out why we're having that craving. Are we actually hungry? What's going on? Those things can really help. So any questions?
Yeah, so, well, it looks like Miss Tanya, she asked, when you know for Mother's Day you're having a cinnamon pancake from Cheesecake Factory, and one pancake is 1,000 calories, what's a mom to do for best results of the day? But then she answered my question. I thought eating eggs and spinach before only eating one pancake was good. I should have eaten no more than a fourth of it, if at all.
Yeah, a lot of times you allow yourself to eat those foods that are going to fill you up first and then have a bite and move on. Or take some home. You can take leftovers are perfectly fine to have. You know, you can always eat your protein, your vegetables, enjoy some of your pancake, and then move on.
And then Neil said, can you address the importance of maintaining metabolism and eating healthy snacks such as nuts, olives, vegetables, yogurt, etc.?
That I really like the idea of nutrient timing and eating a balanced regimen, eating every 3 to 4 hours. That's your normal blood sugar regimen. If you do have type 2 diabetes or something, you might need to alter that a little bit. But eating consistently throughout the day can help keep you full longer and then prevent binges later on. A lot of us go all day, we don't eat. We're like, well, I didn't eat very much. And then we get to the end of the day and then we're craving all this food. So eating consistently throughout the day, every few hours with those nutrient-dense foods can actually help prevent us from binging on those. Like at the end of the day, we're going for chips and cookies or whatever, or as we're making dinner, we're hungry. So we're eating things while we're making dinner. And then we kind of feel bad and sluggish and full and bloated at the end of the day. So it can really help with just regulating our hunger hormones and keeping us full for longer.
Ms. Tanya asked, if you do not eat every 3 to 4 hours, can that lead to diabetes?
It's not going to necessarily lead to diabetes. It can lead to those binges, which leads us to eating excess sugar, which then can lead to diabetes. So we can look at it that way, but it's not necessarily going to hinder you, except for a lot of us, it can slow things down. It can reduce our energy levels. It can impact how our exercise goes. So it can impact our sleep. You know, there's a lot of things that we can look at and fine tune. One day or a couple days where we're kind of off isn't going to be a big deal, but if we're not eating the right foods, it's going to impact us long term.
Do you have any questions?
Just one comment that has to do with portion control. It's something that I found that it helps me. It's really more psychological than anything else. I bought some new bowls that
Yeah.
are smaller
Yeah.
than what I had before, because when I started looking at how many calories were in a bowl, it's way more than what I should have been consuming. So
Yeah.
I found that just getting smaller bowls and eating slower
Yeah.
sometimes is
Set your
helpful
fork
as
down.
well. So those are just a couple of things that I had done to try to, make things a little more comfortable.
There's a story I saw where every night they had ice cream, and they had these little ice cream bowls. That was their standard thing. It was about a spoonful of ice cream. And they went over to a friend's house and the ice cream bowl was massive. And they're like, oh my gosh, like they were able to satisfy their craving and enjoy it by this little bowl that they were able to standardize, and they didn't think much of it. They didn't crave anymore, and they moved on. So yeah, looking at your plate size, how you're filling that up, you don't have to fill your whole plate. Or if you are a visual person who likes to fill, buying a smaller bowl, seeing how that satisfies you. And sometimes trying and sitting with it makes you feel like you'll understand it. You'll be like, this is not going to be enough for me. And then you sit with it and you're like, oh, I'm actually full. I don't need any more. I don't need to clean my plate.
We had someone who was eating, there's certain items like granola where you think it's healthy. You've got to look at that serving size.
Yeah.
Because it might be a half a cup, and then you're filling a bowl up thinking you're eating good nut seeds and all that. But it's adding in sugar, it's adding in fat, all that kind of stuff. So reading the labels with the
And
serving
even the
size.
healthy granolas,
Yeah.
you have to be same thing with nuts. All those fat rich items, those are going to add up quickly. They're not bad, but they're going to add up quickly.
Something else, one more thing I'll throw out, something that helped me with a shopping list was keeping it on my phone. So I used the Notes app on my iPhone, and my shopping list is in there with little check boxes, because I tend to buy the same things over and over and over again. So if I just keep that list, all I have to do is just uncheck the things that I know I need, go get those things off the shelf and get out of the store.
Yeah.
So before I go too crazy on the other stuff that I'm not supposed to be eating.
Right. I think one of the good things, there are a few good things that came out of COVID, I believe, that taught us good things. And one is when you can pick up your groceries, like you put in what you want to order and you pick up, right? Then you won't have those temptations and add to your basket. You're only buying what you ordered online.
Yeah.
Although you're not moving and walking around the grocery store. Pros and cons.
Comment from Neil. Neil said, kudos to Nicole for staying focused with her presentation. I think we wrap up on that note. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you next Tuesday for the business. Great job, ladies.
Very good. Thank you.
You could tell you're a seasoned mom.
You're getting your exercise. You basically danced for the last
Yeah.
half hour.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Oh,
It's our
anytime.
pilot, and I think it'll grow from here. So we'll see you.
Well,
I did the play, yeah.